Welcome to part 3 of my Arkham Asylum series. This series is meant to answer the question, what would an Arkham Asylum remake look like? To answer this question, I split the Asylum story into 3 parts, each one having their own separate video to go over changes I would make. Last time I went over the first third of the game. This included the Titan and Bane boss fights, along with the first Scarecrow section. This video will explore the middle section, transforming boss fights, adding in some new features, and even changing the story a little bit. There will be spoilers for this section, which goes from the caves to the island transformed section. The first section here is known as the caves. However, there's only one cave that actually matters in this section, the Batcave. Your first time in the Batcave is spent analyzing the Titan formula. In the original game, all that's revealed is that it's a stronger version of Venom. However, the remake would reveal that it has also been infused with Scarecrow's toxin. Further analysis reveals the intention of this is to bring out the dark side in someone, allowing Joker to transform even the best of people into vengeful and cruel monsters. Batman would also notice that Dr. Young was focusing on modifying the Titan serum to make sure the subjects kept their intelligence, as the usage of Titan causes a sharp deterioration in mental capabilities. These changes to the story are there for a few reasons. The main one being that this will be leading up to some much larger changes, especially revolving around the ending of the game. It also gives a stage of progression for the Titan boss fights. My idea was, each time you fought a Titan, it became more intelligent, going from a mindless beast in the first fight to someone in full control of their mental capabilities in the last one. This concept will be built on more later in this video with an overhaul to the duo Titan boss fight. One other notable thing does happen in the Batcave. You get a new gadget. The Batclaw is a cool gadget that has uses both in and out of combat. Outside of combat, it's used to pull down grates that are out of reach. Inside of combat, the quickfire Batclaw can be used to pull enemies towards you and perform a Batclaw strike, which is just a strike performed after using the Batclaw. Later games change this to the Batclaw slam, which is much more useful and deals double damage to thugs. It would be cool to see this appear in Asylum, but just making an automatic switch to the better version wouldn't work. Instead, I propose this be an upgrade option. I haven't really talked about upgrades a lot, and that's because I'm not really sure what to do with them. Arkham's upgrades are fine, but there's not really that many of them. Definitely not as many as in later games. Therefore, there will be some things that I decide should be upgrades, and if so, I will include it when I'm talking about that thing that it modifies. In this case, I think the Batclaw Slam should be an upgrade. I also think there should be a secondary upgrade that makes the slam release a shockwave, like when Batman crashes into the ground in the later games. Other than these small additions, which are all optional upgrades, there's nothing else to change about the Batclaw. Batman's next goal is to head to the mansion and find Dr. Young's notes before Joker does. To do that, you go through an underground cave and come out near the Arkham mansion. To get there, however, you must dodge sniper fire while working close to the ledge the snipers are on. Once you take them out, you can go through the gray and enter the mansion. Inside, you'll find plenty of Predator and free-flow sections of the game. However, the order of operations will be slightly changed here. Upon entering the mansion, Joker reveals he has hostages in the library. His plan is to use this to distract Batman from finding the notes. The hostage scene would play out like normal, with Batman needing to drop the chandelier to shatter the glass ceiling and save the hostage. Now, however, the door locks behind you, requiring the warden's voice before you can go any further. To solve this, Batman creates one of my favorite gadgets in the series, the voice synthesizer. He uses it to mimic Warden Sharp's voice, then escapes that room back into the mansion to search for Dr. Young's notes. Free from the library, Batman can now continue to Dr. Young's lab. The Predator fight in the records room, which is actually a pretty difficult fight, would introduce how to use the voice synthesizer to command henchmen. The next few things after could stay the same. You go to Dr. Young's office, track her handprints to find the notes, then burn them. Once that's done, Joker reveals that Zsasz has captured Dr. Young. Batman rushes to save her, only to stumble into something a bit different than he expected. The first sign that something is wrong is that the area you're in is labeled Wayne Manor, which is obviously wrong. The second thing, this hallway is a lot longer than it used to be. Like, a lot longer. Then you transform into Kid Bruce Wayne and get to hear your parents die again. This is, of course, another Scarecrow section. Last time, I changed the build-up of the first section a bit, rewriting the Scarecrow jump scare. This time I would keep the build-up the same, and once again I would keep most of the nightmare section the same. This one is pretty good as it makes use of your new gadget and even has a small combat section with some skeletons. The thing is, I added a new gadget, the voice synthesizer. So now, after beating the skeletons, Scarecrow would stay staring at this gap to make sure you can't cross. To get across, you would need to use the voice synthesizer to mimic Batman's voice and make Scarecrow look away. Other than that, everything would pretty much stay the same. After beating Scarecrow, you still have to go save Dr. Young. To do that, you cut down a bell, then go through the door that is now unlocked. In that hallway, there's normally a new enemy, the stun stick enemy. However, he will no longer be there now because something different is being introduced very soon. You chase after Zsasz and find him holding the doctor hostage. To save her, you need to use a corner crouch, then throw a batarang at Zsasz when his head is exposed to take him out. Except instead of being knocked out from that, he stumbles back. As you move in to take him out, he grabs a knife and tells you to try your best. This should be the introduction to the blade enemies in the blade dodge and takedown. This is also why I removed the stun stick enemies. I didn't want two new back-to-back thug types. Gameplay-wise, it actually might make more sense for the blade thugs to appear later, since they are harder to take down. However, I really wanted to add something to the Zsasz fight to spice it up a little, and it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. To beat him, you just have to perform a blade dodge or two, then attack him after each one. Once he's defeated, you help Dr. Young up and ask her to explain what's happening. She reveals the existence of the Titan factory, then also reveals that Joker has already infiltrated it. Batman then asks why he's still in Arkham if he has everything he needs. The Doctor then explains that there's one more thing Joker wants, a general to lead his army. She claims he calls this general the Shadow Knight and is attempting to free him from his cage. As Batman asks for more information, however, the safe explodes and kills the Doctor. Like normal, you'll have to take out the thugs and find Harley Quinn's trail through the scepter. You leave the mansion and enter the next area of the game, the penitentiary. The penitentiary is an interesting area. It's full of these crazy thugs who rush you and try and jump on your back. The first time you walk through, they're all locked in their cages. After exiting the cell block, you'll find Poison Ivy. Luckily, she's locked up right now. Unfortunately, that all changes when you enter the next room. You rescue the warden, but are locked in and have to watch Harley Quinn free Poison Ivy from her cell. However, you will get a new gadget now, the cryptographic sequencer, also known as the decoder. It's used to unlock locks and access new areas of the asylum. In this case, it's used to escape from the cell you're in with the warden. Now Batman begins to backtrack. Unfortunately, all the cells full of the crazy inmates are now empty. This means you have to constantly be in detective mode to make sure no one's about to rush you from around the corner. They fit the atmosphere of the asylum really well, but it can be a bit annoying to constantly look out for them. Therefore, I would probably limit their involvement in the game to just the penitentiary and not outside like after you clear out the penitentiary. Anyway, after you make it back to the main cell block, you have to enter a fight with Harley Quinn's thugs while she swings around up above. However, after taking out the first wave of thugs, she would toss stun sticks to the enemies coming out to fight you next. This should be an introduction to the stun stick enemies. There would be 2 of them at first, but after beating them, a bunch of thugs would come out. Occasionally, Harley will toss a new stun stick into the group. After defeating all her thugs, Harley does some acrobatics to escape. Chasing after her, there's a decoder puzzle to rescue some hostages. Then you enter the third part of Harley's challenges, another fight with a bunch of inmates, but there's an electric floor Harley will rotate to different sections of the room. The issue with this isn't the fight itself, but the fact that it's pretty anticlimactic. The whole time you're in the penitentiary, it feels like it's leading up to a final confrontation with Harley. It feels like it's going to be a boss fight. But we never get that. I feel like a remake would definitely include a proper boss fight here. So here's how it would play out. After beating her thugs, Harley does her cartwheel towards you. When you grab her, you lift her up to interrogate her. However, she quickly grabs a knife and stabs it into you, jumping back. You look down and see there's an attachment to the knife handle that's flashing red and beeping. Before you can react, the bomb on the end of the knife explodes, releasing a bunch of smoke instead of an actual explosion. Batman would look around, and from the side, a huge mallet strikes him in the head, causing him to stumble backwards. Harley reveals that Joker wanted Batman alive for the party, but wouldn't mind if she had some fun first. This should begin the boss fight. My idea for this boss fight is to do something like what they did with Slade and Origins. A quick-paced boss fight that relies on countering incoming attacks. Harley Quinn's fight could be like this, with her doing acrobatics to dodge your attacks and getting close to attack you. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the fight would be countering her massive hammer attacks. There would also be some opportunities to blade dodge instead of counter, if she performs a flurry attack. The sign this is coming in hard mode would be if she sprints towards you with her hammer held low. Unlike some of the previous bosses I changed, Harley would not be able to counter your attacks, as I feel like this mechanic should be reserved for foes who are on equal footing or stronger than Batman, like the Titans. Harley isn't. Her only advantage is her weapon. She would have some special acrobatic moves, however. One of these would be doing a flip over your head, then kicking you as she passes over you, like Batman does when he jumps over thugs. This wouldn't deal any damage, but she would immediately attack you after this move, and failing to counter it will cause her to deal a lot of damage. After getting Harley to half health, Joker comes on the intercom and asks if she needs any help. While she answers, Batman rushes towards her, but before he can get to her, a giant spring-loaded fist bursts from the wall and punches Batman. As he gets back up, Joker begins laughing and says there's no way Batman escapes now. The second stage of this fight would be incredibly chaotic, with Joker now controlling a bunch of traps around the room. There would be the spring fists, of course, but also a giant swinging blade that comes through the center of the arena. Presents would drop from the ceiling, then explode in bursts of happy gas or Joker's wind-up explosive toys. He would also send in smoke bombs that cover the arena for a few seconds, making you unable to see Harley until she's about to attack. These traps could be disabled, however. Using a remote-controlled batarang, you could hit a weak point on the swinging blade. Using the Batclaw, you could pull the fist out of the wall. The issue is using either of these things will lock you in an animation and cause Harley to rush you in an attempt to attack you while you're distracted. If you do attempt to disable any of the traps, it will need to be when Harley's down or on the other side of the arena. And then once you get her to the very end of the fight, with about 10 to 15% of her health left, Joker realizes it's a lost cause and locks the doors, then tells Batman he better be quick because in 90 seconds, the room will be flooded with laughing gas. There's no more traps. The fight goes back to how it was originally, except now you're rushing to finish it off. To help, Harley would also be much more aggressive and stay close to you, as she also wants to win in the next minute and a half. After beating Harley in the time limit, you grab her and slam her against the wall, demanding to know who the Shadow Knight is. Harley refuses to answer, saying they're planning a surprise party for him, and she won't let Batman ruin all the fun. Batman then gets her handprint and tosses her in the cell. With the handprint, he can now head to the next area, the Botanical Gardens. The gardens are a pretty basic area. Lots of Predator and free flow fights, as well as a cool stealth section where you must sneak past all of the thugs without being seen or attacking any of them. It's a good area and needs no changes. However, what does need changes is the end of this section, the Duo Titan fight. I complained quite a bit about the Titan boss fight last time. Unfortunately for Arkham Asylum, tossing 2 Titans in there does not even come close to fixing the issues. A remake needs to change this fight up majorly. First of all, there's no need to have 2 Titans here. The key to making the boss fight feel fun is to make it seem original. This can't just be done by taking a boss fight we've already seen and didn't like and just cloning it again. This whole boss fight is going to get revamped, including the cutscene in the start, actually. Instead of 2 of Joker's thugs, you get to meet a security guard Joker has captured. Joker explains that the guard is an ordinary man with only one flaw. His job at Arkham has led to a very minor resentment of the freaks there. Joker then shoots him with the Titan formula. As he begins to transform, Joker explains that with his new toy, he can transform that resentment into a raging bonfire of hatred. And unfortunately for Batman, he's the nearest freak around. The new Titan would stumble to the side and grab a pipe, then twirl it through the air like a bow staff. Then the fight would begin. The point of these cutscene changes are to show off the additions of the fear gas to the Titan formula, as I mentioned in the start of this video. I also mentioned that I wanted there to be a progression between the Titans through intelligence. This is seen in this fight because the Titan grabs a weapon, showing he is evolved enough to recognize and make use of tools. This Titan fight would have the changes I implemented to the first Titan and to Bane. If you want a more in-depth look at those changes, check out my previous video. Basically, I made it so you can counter the Titan's attacks instead of repeatedly running away. This Titan would be known as the Armed Titan, and it would use its staff-like weapon to strike quickly and deal tons of damage. If you wish to damage it with counters, you'll need to counter 3 swipes of its staff in quick succession. You can also use gadgets to damage it. This includes the Batarang, Explosive Gel, and Batclaw. When it charges towards you, you can use the Batarang like normal. It will also have a spin attack where it rapidly twirls the staff through the air all around it. To completely counter this move, it would require 4 or 5 counters in quick succession again. Or you could set off explosive gel under it for a much easier way to stun it. Finally, and if you manage to get behind the Titan, you can use a quick Batclaw to pull its leg out from under it and cause it to fall. Like the other Titan fight, mindlessly attacking without caution won't work as it can counter you. Right before it does so, it will raise its staff up slightly and straighten it to be perfectly horizontal. Then, if you try to attack it, it will ram the staff into your chest, sweep you off your feet, then bring the staff down like a spear to try and crush you. You would have an opportunity to dodge out of the way of that last part, but the timing would be very difficult, and it would be much easier to just avoid getting in that situation in the first place. After dealing enough damage to the Titan, Batman would go in for the final blow, preparing to knock it out. However, the Titan manages to grab a door handle and tear it from the wall, raising it as a makeshift shield to block Batman's incoming attack. He knocks him aside, then grabs his metal pipe again, this time holding it like a sword and the door like a shield. This would begin the second phase of the fight, where the armed Titan has a slightly different moveset to represent its new gear. The real change would be the gadget usage. While still possible, using gadgets is much harder and requires more precise timing. When it charges, the Titan now uses its makeshift shield to protect its face until the very last instant where it begins to attack. Instead of its spin move, it has a flurry attack with its sword. You can still use explosive gel, but if the Titan isn't directly on top of it, it will spin around and block the explosion with its shield. This still leaves an opening to attack since its back is turned, but the opening would be smaller. And to use the Batclaw, you'll have to get behind it and quickfire like before. However, instead of falling, the Titan uses its momentum to crash into you, requiring you to counter that and then quickfire Batclaw again to actually knock it down. And finally, it would be able to counter you much more frequently now that it has a shield. Its tell here is that it slams the shield on the ground right before countering you. If you do manage to time everything right and take down the armed Titan, it will drop both of its weapons. This will allow you to continue on to the next section and obtain a new gadget, the Line Launcher. The Line Launcher is a neat little tool. It lets you create a zip line to cross gaps and even let you crash into thugs. As Batman leaves the arena for the armed Titan, he will tell Oracle to begin looking for a prisoner who goes by the alias Shadow Knight. He also gets his next goal of finding Poison Ivy. On your way to find her, you would be introduced to the Quickfire Line Launcher, which lets you roll and fire a line while you're on the floor, creating a tripwire. It only takes 1 thug before the line breaks apart, but I think an upgrade should be added so it takes tripping 2 thugs to break it instead of 1. After finding Ivy, she'll reveal that you need to find Killer Croc's lair to continue. Realizing he needs more information on Croc's prison, Batman heads to Arkham Mansion to talk to Cash, a guard he rescued earlier. However, as you're leaving the gardens, Joker manages to inject Poison Ivy with Titan, enhancing her powers to make her incredibly strong, to the point where she can literally overtake the entire island in plants, which is, of course, where this next section, the Island Transformed, gets its name. As you enter the exterior of the asylum, it's pretty obvious that things have changed. The whole island is covered in plants and all of the thugs are dead. This is something I would change, as I feel like removing all of the enemies made this whole section pretty boring. Instead of killing all of the guards, Poison Ivy would use her plants to mind control them. This would also introduce an entirely new enemy, the Vine Armor Thugs. These are thugs who have Poison Ivy's vines covering their body, constantly reviving them. It would also give them a new attack, the Vine Whip, which is pretty much just a long-range whip attack, and it would be counterable. The main thing is that after you've knocked them to the ground, your ground takedown doesn't knock them out, but instead rips the vines from their chest. This means you would have to take them out twice, and only ground takedowns work the first time. Your first encounter with them would be right after leaving the Botanical Gardens, but many others could be found out around the new island. Honestly, that's the only change this section needs. The rest of it, including finding Cash in the mansion, are pretty standard parts and enjoyable. That is all for this video. I really like the changes I made this time, especially to the Harley Quinn sections. If you also did, please like the video and subscribe. And if not, please let me know what sections you disliked or disagreed with. Thank you everyone, and be ready for my next video that will cover the final third of the Arkham game.